same.
So it should be, it's not right, it's not the same, it's not the same, totally different than
Characteristics.
I agree.
No, I say word for it.
Okay. This is August 31st, 2022. This is a special meeting of the Common Council. It's called to order. Clerk will call the roll.
Mayor Dennett,
Here.
Councilmember Murphy, Councilmember Davies, Councilmember Richburger,
Here.
Councilmember LaParty Shu. Here. Councilmember Carson, Councilmember Harrington, Councilmember Astor. Here. Councilmember Falco. Here.
Can you join me in the pledge of allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And with that, I will turn the proceedings over to City Administrator, who will substitute Member Watts, as we continue our 2023 budget session.
Thank you, Mayor. Similar to how we've been going through these discussions the last few times, we're going to be discussing various areas of the city's services that we provide. I've gone through these with department, staff. We've assigned a rating on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being low and 5 being high, as to how, as to the quality of the level of service that we're providing to the public. Previously, we went through community beautification, drinking water, environmental services, planning and development, and public safety and health. Tonight, we'll be going through arts, culture, and entertainment, community services, parks and recreation, and transportation. And then we'll also have discussion about general government support. These are not services that are directly provided to the public. It's not an end. It's more the means to the end. It's the background stuff that you might never hear about or think about or see very visibly, but there's a lot that goes into it. So we want to kind of go through that and just make sure everyone's aware generally of what it is that staff have to do to keep the city running. So without further ado, we can jump right into arts, culture, and entertainment. Again, these headings are kind of based on our budget. If you look at the budget, you recognize some of these terms. That's why we use arts, culture, and entertainment as a grouping. We don't do a wide variety of services in this area, but we do some. So band concerts is first. You'll recognize that as our Thursday night summer concert series. Carrie, if you'd like to kind of just give an overview of what we do there or how we rate ourselves.
So we're all going to give ourselves anywhere between a 3 and a 4 on this. The summer concert series is a 10-concert series that occurs on Thursdays in the summer in the city of Oneonta. We were fortunate enough with some outside partnership. We added a kids movie night this year, which was incredibly well received and well attended, and is being asked for again. We bring in local and relatively local groups into the area. We have been live streaming them since the pandemic to increase the outreach, to allow those. We have assisted living and nursing homes that gather their residents in common areas because they're not able to make it out. So this, we're doing well with this.
Chris, or anything else to add, just feel free to jump in as usual. And, council members, mayor, if you have any questions or feedback or thoughts, agreement or disagreement with our rating of ourselves. Dave?
What's the added cost to do live streaming for the concert?
0.
0.
I go down, I have a setup that I use, and I do it.
Okay.
Could you tell us, I'm sorry, could you tell us the overall budget for the concert series?
Concert series is a little over $5,000. We have about $500 dedicated to 10 acts. I know there's typically a little bit extra that either Chris is able to move around for Lou and I, or how that works, but that's the ballpark.
I was just going to add in here, we have a mobile stage in relation to this. We set them up when it's requested. We are looking into, with the ARPA funds, providing a new stage.
Sorry, one thing that had been brought up to me that I'd like to just throw out into the ether while we're talking about this, because it doesn't come up often, is that SUNY Alianza has a summer internship program, and they're always looking to place their music industry students. And like they do everything. I mean, you could get them to do anything for 10 weeks, booking, tech, so additional helping hands. I think that would be really cool and a great way to partner with the colleges.
Yeah, Jen, I'm going to figure out.
Jen Epke?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. Any other questions or comments on the dance concert? If not, then we'll move on to the historian.
Historian, obviously, we have a city historian assigned. This isn't something that is very well utilized, or it's not a big part of our budget. It's $1,000 maybe in the budget each year, something like that. I don't know, Carrie, your experience with,
Yeah, the big thing is they're underutilized. They're accessible to us by phone, they're accessible to the public. I find the public probably uses them a bit more than we do, but.
Carrie, when you say they, are we talking about Mark Simmons, or are we talking about more than?
Yes, Mark.
Any thoughts or questions from the council?
Can I just ask, what kinds of things we use our historian for?
We've had a number of people reach out, a lot of the cemetery research, people looking to tie into some genealogical research that they've done, trying to locate where the loved ones are buried or family members are buried.
Okay.
That seems to be the biggest draw.
Okay.
Do you have a number
Interesting.
of pictures slide to this?
No.
Okay.
we assigned it to, we don't receive complaints about this or anything like that, but just given the fact that it's very limited in scope, and perhaps there are people who are, although we don't have any specific recommendations, we figure there's room for improvement, even though maybe it's not a high priority because there's not a high demand for changes.
I would just like to add that he does publish in the Daily Star every week, so there's always very interesting articles from him.
Right, thanks, Steve.
Moving on to museum then?
Museum, that is the Sport Wilcox House, which is a museum. We have a really dedicated group of volunteers, the Friends of the Sport Wilcox House, that are doing an excellent job with their Summer Sunday series. I forget how many there are, but there's 10 or more.
Give or take 10.
Those every Sunday, they send out a newsletter in the form of an email, and obviously the house itself is fairly well maintained. We've had a number of projects in recent years. There's a special fund for the Sport Wilcox House that's made up of past donations that we utilize to fund maintenance there. I think for the most part, we're able to accommodate most of that group's requests. There's some wish list items we haven't gotten to, but I think there's a good working relationship. They really appreciate the work that he puts into it. I don't care if you have any.
No, that's it. We're working, right now, the current project is to try and find a way to facilitate internet for them down there. They've digitized a number of records, very historical records, and to make them accessible to everybody. Cool. So that's their current project.
We're in constant contact with the volunteers there. They send us an email occasionally with quite a list of items to work on. As you know, we only really have two gentlemen in our building and grounds group that can do the carpentry work, mostly Gene. I know we're looking at doing some, what did I tell you? The window, like shutters, thank you. We're getting quotes on that now. They frequently ask for tree removals, tree plantings, roof repairs, any repairs that might be needed because of, rodent issues. We also have rodent control there. So they have quite a list that they send us occasionally.
We rated this at a 4 out of 5.
All right. Questions? Then moving on to public art.
So next we have public art. It's probably a 1 out of 5 if we didn't have a public arts commission, which was obviously created recently, and there's momentum in that realm, and I think we'll be continuing to kind of improve, in the future. I can see this rating going up as we start doing more of this, since we have really been heavily involved in public art in the past. But again, this is kind of a developing thing, I don't know, I guess, thoughts on it, but we agree with the two, or there's obviously not a dedicated annual budget for this, but
Do you have anything to,
I don't, nope.
go to? All right.
I agree, we don't have very much. What we do have is placed in like weird places, but like you said, there's momentum to be more thoughtful about that, so, yeah.
Any other council members with a thought or case? I guess we'll move on to special events.
special events, obviously, we have downtown Main Street events, various events that happen throughout the year, road races that the city participates in, road closures or traffic control, special events in the park, 4th of July, etc. We rated ourselves a 4 here. Obviously, there's always room for improvement. You can always do more. The city isn't an events organization, but we support these events in a lot of ways. And I think for the most part, when there's a request, the events that we have going on, we're able to fulfill those requests. Some of the road closures, there's a lot of road races, and there's been more in recent years that have put a strain on OPD and DPW in some cases. We've been trying to work with them to set up courses that are a little bit easier to manage and don't require so many resources from the city. I think that's something that's workable. We could improve this, I think, by reducing that demand on staffing with some changes to where those closures occur. But for the most part, we don't receive many complaints regarding the events that are applicable to the city's role in those, so that's what we get ourselves for. Gary, I'm going to talk about the process. Maybe just explain the process of how these events are permitted.
So typically, 45 days prior to an event, we'll receive an application from the organization that's sponsoring it. If it's a previously approved event by the council, our office has the ability to just approve it and forward it on. We've been kind of hesitant to move on with just marking them as previously approved and approving them carte blanche because of the draw that it has to public safety. So we have an email thread and we send copies of the permits, and this is what they're requesting, what can we accommodate. And there's been a lot more communication back and forth with the organizers and all the players in the game to kind of say, okay, we need to do this instead. So once that event is approved, then it gets distributed to those same players. We also include Fox Hospital, the post office, anybody that might be impacted by a change in traffic or pedestrian traffic. And then DPW, Police Department, and Fire Department take it over from there.
Do you guys have anything to add? Safety, DPW?
Well, just in regard to the road races, Oneonta seems to be the hub for a lot of the county's races. And one of the issues that we have there is we've had some complaints regarding traffic control, specifically in the 6th Ward area. I don't have the staff to run like a pit run style race, and I think that's what people are generally expecting. The pit run would bring in upwards of 50 to 60 troopers, plus a full complement of Oneonta police to work to man the intersections. So we can't guarantee there's not going to be road traffic. So some of these requests are to shut down the roadways completely. In particular, one recently was for the Rockenberger 5K, and they essentially requested the entire 6th Ward be shut down for almost a 3-hour period. So for us to be able to do that would require about 16 police officers to be able to do that. I just don't have the staff. So looking at these with a critical eye and recognizing that maybe there's some better venues, like inside the parks, for instance, where I know a lot of road races are run in other municipalities, may be a better use of our resources than essentially shutting down roadways.
Yeah, I mean, I've been involved with road races off and on for like 30 plus years, and I actually ran a couple of them years ago. One thing that is happening is people are preferring races, especially, we're talking about the people that race all the time are preferring races that are off the main roads, whether it's cross-country style or on a bike path. I just witnessed one in Rochester. The entire thing was on a bike path or on the grass. I don't think they needed any police officer.
Yeah, and I agree with you, and that's one of the things that I've identified as an issue that we've had that's a recurring one. specifically because I've run myself several races where they're either completely off-road on dirt trails, cross-country trails, or in the case of Albany, like their riverfront, they have a riverfront that they utilize specifically for those races. And, one of the suggestions I made is the council wants to have the Greenway, like have a Greenway 5K and use the proceeds to help fund the Greenway. Right. But to have them on the road where we can't guarantee that there's not going to be traffic backing out of a driveway even is pretty difficult.
Well, we also have a trail system here that is incredible, and I don't think it would be that much effort to find a way to ask bikers to stay off a certain section for a race and encourage these race directors to try to move the race from the road to off-road. I'm sure the school district would allow people to go on their property.
I know they will. I've already spoken to Tom Bendel, so you're absolutely right.
Yeah. So, and most drivers would prefer it. It's also better for you to be off-road than racing on the road. So.
Any other comments?
I just think in terms of this being a budget consideration, that your suggestion is a great one, Chief, that we look at investment in making our trail system suitable for road races, to reduce the traffic.
Yeah, they've really kind of turned into popular money grab for not-for-profits. So that especially being that this is the population center for the county, we get a lot of interest in having 5K races, which are great. But, to what end, and, what's the danger? That the city clerk's office received a complaint regarding traffic that we thought went rather smoothly for one of the races that was run earlier this year. So that kind of brought to light the concerns of, what are we missing? And I think that's really the pointed issue is, are we doing, are we utilizing the roadways for 5K and 10K races in an appropriate manner? I think there's some question.
The only other thing I would like to say is just that, like, road races aside, all that, in parks, when we get feedback on events and things, it's overwhelmingly positive, with regard to, like, traffic and crowd control, so just want to know that.
Any other comments? Terrific. Let's move on to youth.
Okay, so we have a few youth programs, city funds. Obviously, YMCA is contracted to operate over pool in summer. That includes swimming lessons for youth. We also have there's now this morning program, the afternoon program, the YMCA operates. We've had a discussion about whether that can be extended to that. And the other thing we noted is Teen Center, which operates out of the basement. It seems to go really well, and they seem to like the space. They could always use more space, but they've got a good space where they're at now. We rated ourselves a 4 out of 5 here for what we've been providing. Obviously, we can always provide more. We used to put more recreational programs directly provided by the city. But given that that's no longer a function of the city, based on previous decisions that was changed, we're rating ourselves based on those 3 areas. Obviously, 4 out of 5 of the opportunities to provide.
I'm looking at this, I would just rating what we're offering. I think we need to look at the big picture, like we do in every other area. I would personally rate it about 3, because I think we don't have improvement. We have to decide whether we want to spend money on it.
Council agree with that? You change it?
Yeah, I would agree. That's what I was thinking, is that, rating the quality of the existing programs, it's possible that 4 out of 5, I mean, I don't have much experience with the Teen Center, but I know the Y is a really great program. But it seems out of sync with what we're sort of doing with everything else, just thinking about the ideal, where we'd like to go. So I would agree, 3 or maybe even 4. And again, to your point, maybe that's not the role of city government at this point.
Yeah. Well, you're right. When we were looking at
Community gardens.
Rate ourselves a 3 out of 5. We have one community garden, it's for Wilcox property, Wilcox Ave. We recently expanded that a few years ago with a grant received from the state. That's fully rented now.
It's full of those, they had to run a lottery and not everybody.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
There's a big call, big draw for it. They'd love to see more gardens. They're expensive.
We do have, I don't know if we have any using them. We do have some raised beds that are handicap accessible. Part of the grant.
I believe we're looking to budget additional beds for this year, expanding the fencing and adding beds. I think 6, maybe? 6 beds, 6 or 8 beds. There was discussion at the beginning of the year. We didn't have budget for it this year. We talked about budgeting for it for 2023.
Yeah, I think the discussion had been around just expanding toward this local house, right?
Something like that, yeah.
And I know we talked about trying to not just expand the garden, but expand the locations in the garden, but I think that's almost an insurmountable task, because I remember what it was like when we didn't have water at our garden, and it was not well used. And having the water available makes a world of difference in proper fencing, and I'm just not sure where else we'd be able to put something.
I think it's dual. Look at a couple locations. I mean, in some cases, it might be best if they're on private property and the city doesn't own currently. There's water mains throughout the city, so getting water is an insurmountable, but it's a cost. And as you know, I think we spent $25-$35 just on the improvements of the current one. So at least that, more than that, to create a new one with similar size elsewhere.
Another site would need maybe potential storage for, like a storage shed like we have at the one in the 6th Ward. We till the beds for them, so that's something that we do. We provide them mulch, they use it, turn into topsoil. So each site we would have would be additional work for DPW. But the one we have now, I think we provide great service for. We would like to see more. I think more would be beneficial to the community.
I can tell you too, just anecdotally, the level of appreciation that those gardeners have for what the city brings to the game is off the charts.
The other thing I want to add is we also purchased them an electric mower this year, and the volunteer mow it. They take the battery home, charge it, mow it.
It's a really nice partnership. Any other thoughts on community gardens?
Earlier this afternoon, I sent the council a document that kind of detailed a little more in depth what our office does. And one of those sections dealt with licensing and permits. And all told, we issue probably about 25 different licenses and permits throughout the city. Everything from the trades and taxi delivery to dogs, chickens, bees, your garbage haulers, your gasoline stations, your tattoos, your body piercing. They vary from $10 for your dogs to over $150 for garbage, gas, stations, body piercing, tattoo. Also tying in with that, we do the games of chance and accessible parking permits, things of that nature. So instead of prattling on about all of them, if anybody has any questions.
And are there any questions? Did everybody have an opportunity to see, was it 4 pages?
I did see that, thank you.
No, I didn't see it yet, sorry.
It's good reading. So I think that takes care of them licensing and permitting, and moving on, I guess, to marriages.
Marriages was added as a separate section in vital records because both Bonnie and I are actually ordained ministers who provide ceremonies to the public. They have to come in specifically requested. It's a couple-minute long ceremony, but it's been a service that a fair amount of people have taken advantage of. So
I wish I had known that.
there's a lot of these. I wish I knew that. Yeah.
5, right?
Yeah, there are 5. We're not in the apart.
Nice.
Yeah. who wrote our vows for people to use, they get a little certificate.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Is there rice?
No.
Oh,
Yeah, you know what you should use is, like recycled paper or flour confetti.
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah. Biodegradable.
Great. Taking us to Notary Public.
Both Bonnie and I, along with a couple of other city employees, are notary publics. So that's a free service that we offer to the public.
There's also 5 on that.
Yeah.
Should people call ahead to have something notarized?
No, Bonnie and I mean, we're there. Val also has her notary public, so out of the three of us, someone is there.
Okay.
And we asked Jenny a couple times, can you take care of this for us? So
Okay.
Good to know.
Yeah, somebody asked me about it. I was like, I'm sure somebody there is.
Yep.
Yeah.
Moving on to public information.
Public information is a big chunk of also what we do. Everything from freedom of information to social media, press releases, Nixle, the website, public meeting calendars, live streaming, proclamations, certified resolutions, city registrar. So
We have ourselves at the free.
and a three, yeah.
So why only a free, if I might ask?
There are not enough hours in the day
So
to fully dedicate to what we'd like to. I mean, they're getting done, but I'd like to see them done maybe a little better.
So the sorts of things we were talking about were the website, we put a lot more time into updating content, website, we've got a new website designed, but the content needs some updating. Department heads and staff don't have time regularly to be in there, so it's one of those things that sometimes fall over the wayside and we have to update them.
It's almost like a real-time person, just doing the website.
We could, funny that you mentioned that. I'm a huge advocate for this position as a strategic plan called Community Information Officer. I think that it's something that, we want more community engagement, we want to be fully transparent, we put a lot on the city clerk's office in terms of this community information piece. And I think that basically this person being sort of the liaison in all the ways that the city communicates would be really transformative. So I'm going to continue to advocate for that anytime that is appropriate.
Any other comments on the public information? And if not, we'll move to vital records.
So the city is, our office is responsible for the issuance, registration, and any acknowledgement of births, deaths, or marriages that occur within the city limits. We have records dating back to the late 1800s. We process, give or take, right now we're on track to break just over 1,700 requests for vital records this year. So we'll have, if we filed with us, we filed with New York State, certain records get filed with Otsego County. Any corrections or amendments that are done are handled through the state and through our office. We hold the original copy of any of those life events that happen.
And then you guys produce like copies, like certified copies.
Certified copies of the.
Any questions about the vital records? Thank you. What is your wages?
With vital records? 4.
So the next area of services, Parks and Recreation. We broke these down in 5 categories, first being athletic facilities. Chris,
So athletic facilities, we rate ourselves a 3 out of 5. The issues that we have are the softball fields could be better. 2/3 of the basketball courts are in poor condition. The skate park is in poor condition. Field 6 infield is in disrepair and needs upgrading. And the playgrounds are not ADA. In addition to that, now, Greg, do you agree that the swimming pool will fall under athletic facility, or is that something that should fall under recreation facilities?
we kind of debated that, and kind of both. I guess I would say more recreational.
I'm going to add the issues to the pool, for the pool to this then, I guess. The kiddie pool needs to be upgraded to chlorine. Right now they use acid for pH control. In addition, the large pool needs a new filtration system. The filters, I don't believe, have been upgraded in at least 20 years. I know that because one of the park supervisors said he's been there 20 years, it's never been touched, so, and it's in need of upgrading. How to improve the level of service, funding for capital improvements. What else do we have here? That's pretty much it. Maybe some more staffing. We have issues with getting the field prepared for athletic events. So, any comments or questions?
Can I just ask a question about Field 6? Because I was under the impression that we approved that repair in the repair reserve. The infield?
Greg and I talked about that today. We approved a budget of $50,000, but a contract was never approved. So I believe we're going to go to Common Council on Tuesday to approve the contract.
Possibly, we have to talk to the chair of finance and there, see if we can go forward with that. I don't see that being a major issue. If not, we go to the finance committee and then the council. But the budget was approved, as you said, with repairs reserve. Now it's a matter of entering the contracts. We're waiting for the end of the baseball season, which we reached.
Okay.
It's a $46,000 contract with Clark's, and I believe it's based on public bidding, so it's something we don't have to go out to bid for. Cooperative bidding.
Similar to what we did for the massive field improvements.
So that will be taken care of this year. But adding to the list because it's still not done.
Gotcha. And speaking of Damascus Fields, it was not mentioned, and I also don't see it on the list.
That's included in that.
It's in this, yeah.
Okay.
The facilities are adequate, they're well maintained. We did have water damage earlier this spring that needs to be addressed in the concession stand area and the office that's next to the concession stand. So that is something that will be, should be funded through the insurance. Mostly. $5,000 deductible.
Okay.
We also have a master plan subset. We can use, the sky's the limit, the state per se, but we identified a number of improvements that would be several million dollars. If there were funding available, we could make it even nicer. So with the grandstand was, there's nothing there now. There's just seating, a temporary seating setup. We can install some permanent box seats, raised platform that used for multi-purpose, not just for baseball games. Following along the trend, baseball stadiums these days trying to get more appealing to not just the diehard baseball fans that want to sit there for 90 minutes straight. There's more of an active area. We can have some schools and eat and drink and socialize while watching the game. Other ideas as well, all things walk. We recognize the history of Damascus Field, things that we couldn't afford in the initial phase one renovations, which were basically the bare minimums that get us up to snuff with conditions. All of that depends on the funding, which is a question.
Okay.
It's on the master plan, but what happens?
I just have a question about the funding part of it. So, because I know, forgive me for not knowing exactly what grant it is, but there was some talk about putting a splash park in or new types of facilities into Newell Park, correct?
Yeah, I think
Could that money, instead of adding more new things, and then, I mean, which, well, it's great, to keep adding more new things, could that money be allocated towards improving what is already there, like fixing the skate park or adding a grandstand?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the project priorities that we discussed last fall, which tries to be ARPA funding, were mostly on improving what's there, the relocation of basketball court, the replacement of bridge, there was included the temporary one. It's not an existing facility, but sort of an existing function for the town. I forget the
Okay,
we did electrical upgrades. But yes,
great.
maintaining what we have, to me, would be a priority before adding.
I agree. So, okay. Thanks.
Any more comments on the athletic fields or facilities? Okay. Park maintenance, we rate this as level 3. The issues we have is the volume of work we have. We have to mow the facilities, we have to weed eat the facilities, we have to prepare fields for games, we line the fields, we edge the fields, the ball fields are edged, and it's an entire season maintenance. We have 3 full-time staff and a handful of seasonal workers that do the work. The other issue we have here are the bathrooms are in very bad shape. How to improve the level of service, increase staffing to keep up with mowing and trimming in the summer, and have time for other tasks such as cleaning the bathrooms.
Can I ask, is this a big question? What would you say is the square footage of all parks property that these 3 full-time staff are required to maintain?
Do you know?
Massive, right?
I think
It's massive, yes.
You want to tell us like 70 acres over, wooded areas.
I can tell you that we get behind, and then we actually pull street staff occasionally from the streets task to stay on top of the park maintenance. The park guys alone are not enough to maintain all the facilities all the time.
Right.
Now, when it was dry out, like it has been, and the grass isn't growing quite as quickly, it's more manageable. But there's certainly improvement that's can be made.
I would wrap park maintenance based on the fact that there's the Appleball Gardens, and we've got numerous other places in the city where we've had discussions, and we had a discussion at Quality of Life on Monday about this. I think we really need to consider hiring a part-time gardener like we used to have, because I think maintaining not only the Appleball Gardens and Main Street, I mean, Muller Plaza looks awful right now, the D Street parking lot outside of the building that they're doing, the other areas that were supposed to be gardens, when we put all that in years ago, hasn't been maintained. And you've got various places in the park, but adding a staff for parks maintenance would also be able to cover these other areas. We talked about the triangle at Lennox Highway in Maine. Like, that is a major gateway to the city, and it looks so bad this year. We have so many people coming to the city. I think this isn't just a maintaining our flowers issue. This is a marketing issue for the city. If we can't take care of that, what are we doing with everything else? So I think we really need to consider adding that position somewhere in our budget and get that position back, because we used to have it, and it's so suffering.
That falls under community beautification, landscaping, and we give ourselves a rating of 2 out of 5 for that stuff. So, and it's totally related to staffing. Again, I mentioned the building and ground guys. We only have 2 full-time guys right now. We're down 1 person. We have a part-time person that's fully devoted to the police department and that building. And the guys this year have been spent so much on building renovations that's taken them away from doing a lot of, the beautification type stuff. So it's.
But if we hire somebody like that from maybe October, they focus on the beautification in the city, and then the rest of the month, you pull them into wherever we need them in DPW or other areas that parks, because I know the parks guys do work in the winter too, maintaining equipment and such.
We are going to at some point need a city forester. Fred Hathaway has been talking about doing less work, so maybe master gardener, city forester would be the same person.
Yeah,
ideally.
that would make sense. Paper anyway.
Willow Park is 50 acres there. That's what they're pointing out to me.
Thank you.
So, and we also maintain greenway trails, you know, we mow that, when trees fall down, we cut the trees up, we trim the trees back, we mow we brush hog the area, at the end of Silas Lane, part of the greenway area, we brush hog and mow, you know, the areas up in the watershed, so there's a lot that goes on with the parks that some may forget about.
I just wanted to bring up a point. We've been looking at statistics on full-time people over the years. DPW, between all of the administration and the staff laborers, used to have a crew of 45. They now have a crew of 38. So the work hasn't changed. Matter of fact, it's probably been increased, but they're down by 7 manpower. So I just wanted to point that out.
Thank you, Jay.
I think that was over the course of this century, basically since 2000 or so.
And as we add more facilities, we need more staff. And I love more facilities, more things, you know, makes the city better. Just we need to make sure we provide the appropriate staff to maintain it. And the budget to maintain the facility,
Yeah.
because we have a lot that needs work.
It's almost worse if you build a new facility and then don't maintain it. People
Right.
have such a bad taste in their mouth about that.
Exactly.
Right, moving on.
Recreational facilities. So we gave ourselves a level 3 for this. Some facilities are in disrepair, lagging behind on the master plan and implementation. Some facilities lack accessibility. To improve on this, complete the LWRP, implement more recreational facility improvement projects.
Could you just give an example of what you mean by recreational facilities?
That would be like Hodges Pond, I guess, would be a recreational facility. The mill race, the pavilions,
Okay,
things like that.
okay, thank you. You said 3?
3, we always have a level 3.
Any other comments on recreational facilities or questions? Okay, moving on to youth programs.
Greg, I'm not sure what to really mention about the youth program other than the swimming that the youth center does for us.
We kind of covered this accidentally earlier, we were talking youth programs, recreation programs, this is swimming lessons, day program, so here I had 2 out of 5, and we had 3 or 4 before, and that's probably what it's like. So I think our difference with sure what youth programs that are non-recreational are, so that we can combine those together. But I think we talked about moving that down to a 3 or a 2.
And then wrapping up with trail network.
Trail networks, so we gave ourselves a level 3. The issue we have here, we're lacking a master plan for the trail networks, lacking connectivity and accessibility throughout the trail network. One notable point is the Greenway Trail is not connected fully. We would like to add some trail network in the 6th Ward to make it connected. How to improve the level of service. Again, this is completing the LWRP, create trail network master plan, build more trail connections, improve trail accessibility, and connect to regional water trail network. Any comments, questions? Okay.
Okay, moving on to transportation.
You want to discuss the airport?
Yeah, I can discuss the airport. I had discussed with the acting in the report. Well, we had given ourselves a 3 out of 5. Some of the issues at the airport are we don't have currently a code inspection agency with jurisdiction over the airport that has taken responsibility for doing those inspections, so that's been an issue. It's not in the city, obviously, it's in Lawrence. Lawrence does not have code enforcement inspection, and the county does inspections, but their county inspection agency hasn't been able to come or willing to come and inspect it. So that's sort of a question mark that we need to resolve. We have an inadequate fire alarm system at the moment, needs some upgrades, monitoring specifically. It's not monitored now as it should be. One of the issues that our insurance agent had pointed out to us as a concern is it's not an illegal thing, but it's something that, you know, could be improved if we had more maintenance staff. Right now, pilots sometimes fuel their planes themselves. We do have a part-time maintenance mechanic on site, as well as an operator of airplane repair service that helps out pilots fueling. There are times, I believe, when pilots have to fuel themselves. Our runway length limits what size aircraft can land at the airport, particularly in inclement weather. That can limit, you know, who's able and willing to come here. Some of the larger aircraft, obviously, when they come here and they refuel, that's a source of income for the city, which would help. Having more fuel sales would help make the airport more sustainable financially.
Do we have the ability to lengthen the runway?
With a major capital improvement project. It's on our airport capital improvement plan.
Okay.
Would require some federal and state funding along with local match, of course, but yeah, there is room. Limited capacity currently for tie downs and hangar space and other source of income. You can always expand and build more of that. There's room for that. Outdated fuel farm, as you're aware, we did a bid. We had funding through New York State DOT, but not sufficient funding given cost increases, putting us well over budget. We ended up rejecting the bid, looking for options now, how we might complete that project. So improving those things would help us improve our level of service, bringing in more fuel sales, more rental income would help make it more of a cost-effective measure and improve the use of it. Sharon, pretty much all over your kid. More to add on that?
I think that's really it, and the problem is, a lot of those issues, they're domino effects. So the fuel farm impacts how much fuel they can take in, which impacts the pricing of the fuel that they sell. So they all talk to them.
What's the percentage of our hangars that are rented versus?
They're full.
The full?
They're full.
Actually meeting up there, the manager or somebody from that helicopter company that's doing the work in the area, massively that space to sort of help out the fuel company.
Yeah, I'm going to expand that.
We could never another capital improvement project. I think it also requires before we can physically add hangars, we need to either move the fuel farm, so that we can really replace that, and/or access road, the taxi road. So
The steps that have to be done first.
they're all expensive steps.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them. Just depending on what you get.
Yeah, and sometimes I wonder, it's worth putting the money in, depending on how much we're going to expand, because that'll bring more money in to pay for those projects.
Another further issue I didn't mention, but should, is just the taxes that you pay in the airport. Obviously, it's not city-owned, it's not tax exempt. You pay property taxes, $40,000, I believe, annually. That contributes to the cost. We have to figure. Moving on to parking, off-street.
Parking off-street, those are parking lots. We gave ourselves a 2 out of 5. Issues with parking garage and Wall Street lot are in very poor condition. Minimal enforcement. We have low turnover in Wall Street and Westcott lot. How to improve level of service, increase staffing to spend more time maintaining signage, increase funding for pavement maintenance and lots and garage structural maintenance, increase staffing for enforcement. Do you want to add anything to that, Chief?
Parking enforcement for the lots.
Yeah.
We have one full-time, part-time, sometime parking enforcement officer that works between dog control codes in our office. So, you know, that limits our ability to, it's not like we've got somebody that we can put in the lots for 8 hours a day. I know that the city administrators got some plans for parking, so I think that would be helpful. This time of year is particularly problematic with the terms, so we have officers out also. 5:30 this morning up in Gilboa.
Shocker.
We're paying, I actually drove through there this morning, and so we had some enforcement done because there were some issues on Irving Place and Spruce Street. So, but yeah, that's for this time of year, particularly with the uptick in vehicle traffic, we see a lot of overflow into the lots and parking violations with people just hanging on to spots for way too long. We have seen some increased movement though in the last week, which is good.
Yeah, just yesterday coming up East Street and on Maple Street, I mean, there were cars parked on both sides. It seems like no matter what we do, they don't seem to learn.
Every year, it's a learning curve. I think a lot of it has to do with new students coming off campus not being familiar with the regulations, but they're learning.
We must be in front of the sign that tells you.
There's many people that don't pay attention to science.
Yeah.
Do you all agree we have a score of 2 for that?
One thing I brought up in our economic development committee meeting recently, and that I'll just bring up again, is that especially in downtown where there are a lot of residents living there, there's definitely a need for people to have a, or a need/want for people to have a space where they can park a little bit more long-term, like overnight, like, you know, and not have to move their car like twice a day. And so I was, you know, kind of brought up that maybe the city could consider having some kind of residential parking permit type of thing. Sorry, Carrie would have to go through her office, but, you know, it would be a way to then generate revenue for the city. And then maybe you could, with that, hire someone to help with parking enforcement.
Are we talking citywide, or are we talking a specific area in the city?
I mean, I think definitely downtown is where there's a lot of need, especially as there is this new building coming in and more upper story housing is coming in. You know, people that live in Oneonta generally have cars, you know, to get to grocery stores.
So you're talking about around the Main Street area?
Yeah, I'm talking about mostly around Main Street, like maybe in the parking garage, you know, or some, I don't know.
Because this discussion has come up in various ways over the last 10, 15 years, and we've heard it where it's citywide versus Main Street, but I think
I was thinking
discussion about downtown
specifically.
I think it's probably time to have that discussion because we're looking to put a significant number of apartments downtown. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and those people are going to have cars and they're, you know.
We've been having some conversations about how that would, you know, the mechanics of that would work. I think it's definitely something we can accommodate. We just have to have some conversation for it.
Yeah, like maybe setting, like, where do these people have, you know, within what area do they live and, you know, whatever. Yes, of course, I don't want to take up all the time with this, but I just felt I should bring it up. Okay.
Okay, moving on. On-street parking, we gave ourselves a 2 out of 5. Issues are volume of signs. We have many signs. We have many signs that are faded, many signposts old and or crooked, or don't meet regulations, and we have minimal enforcement. How to improve level of service, increase staffing to spend more time maintaining the signage, increase staffing for enforcement. Any comments, questions?
Yeah, the only thing that I would add is, and I know that it's something that is ongoing, is that, you know, figuring out, you know, a lot of our markings and things are historic in nature. And so I know that we're looking into how to best, you know, maximize and utilize all of our space to make sense. But I think that that factors into the rating as well. It's like how well our on-street parking is placed for the, you know, the mechanics of the street and the needs of, you know, what's around it, so.
There's certainly room for improvement. Any other comments?
Nope.
Okay, pavement maintenance, we gave ourselves a 4 out of 5. The issues, we have some very, very poor roads that need full reconstruction. Potholes, cracking, getting the roads, etc. How to improve level of service, increase funding, to do more reconstruction of streets in poor condition, to higher quality patching, which requires more DPW time. Any comments or questions on that?
I think we've come a long way in 20 years, though, from where we were and how we used to do it. And there's better techniques, and I know that there's streets that need updating, but I think we've done a really awesome job at taking care of what we have.
I think we're doing a good job of protecting what's there with the surface projects, with the fiber mat projects and the micro paving that we're doing, and the crack sealing. That's extending the life of the road, so you're right.
I can tell you that the crews are highly efficient. We just had a patch on Cherry Street, as you're well aware, and if I had my phone handy, I would have videoed it and put music to it. There was a dance that they did. It was very impressive.
Moving along. Good. That's good to hear. Any other comments on pavement maintenance? Okay, moving on. Sidewalks, we gave ourselves a 1 out of 5. We have a very large volume backlog. We have sidewalk that's heaving from frost heave. We have ADA compliance issues, and we have trip hazards throughout the city. Many times walking down the road, you just don't want to look down. We have a lot of sidewalk issues. How to improve level of service? Increase funding to replace larger sections of sidewalk in poor condition. And the other issue I want to add to this is, I understand years, not too long ago, 2 years, 3 years ago, we used to have employees on staff that could do the sidewalk replacements. We no longer have that, so we entirely rely on our sidewalk replacement on contracting, which is more expensive.
What about Job Corps? We used to have an agreement with them to help us out. Do they still do
They
this?
still do, but we haven't made it since COVID. They don't have the students. They're allowed off-center again, but they don't have.
They have a shortage of
programs
students.
to be able to, we're hoping next year.
Yeah, they're about a third of their OBS strength. They're about a third of their onboard strength right now.
But certainly, we're more than willing to work with them to do sidewalk replacement. Any comments, questions, disagreement on the level of sidewalk? Okay. Snow and ice control, we gave ourselves a 4 out of 5. Our main issue is we can't provide 24/7 full coverage. And how to improve that? Increase staffing, provide multiple shifts and 24/7 coverage. Any comments, questions on snow and ice?
When you say you can't cover 24/7, I just am remembering like some creative scheduling that you guys did in terms of making sure that all the roads were plowed anytime there was like an impending event. So when you say like you can't have 24/7 coverage, what do you mean by that, I guess?
What I mean by that is 24/7, 7 days a week. So,
Like whether or not there's,
right.
okay.
We do a good job of staying on top of whether a storm is coming. We have meetings on the storm beforehand. We coordinate with the police. They call our call number once we get a certain level of snow or icing conditions. And whether it's ice, we'll have some people come in and do an assessment. They might start salting. If they need more help, we'll call more people in to help salting. Same thing with snow. Get over a certain amount of snow, please call us. Our crew comes in and assesses the situation. They call me if they need help. It's worked, but when you have, if we get a storm system that, lasts 3 or 4 days, we could be in trouble based on our staffing. At that point, we have to call contractors in to help us move snow.
People don't have enough staff to have multiple shifts.
Right.
That's like he's saying, that it's long duration storms. Our guys can only be out there for so long before we have to give a break. There's no one else to come and relieve them. So long duration, or it was cleanup needed, where there were cars parked that didn't move, we need to come back and clean takes longer than we'd like because we have to come back a day or a day and a half, 2 days later. And then there's removing the snow like downtown and on the really narrow streets if we have a heavy snow. And that takes time to schedule and to get people available to do.
So our park crew, the street crew in the winter time, there are 13 employees, there are 10 plow routes and 3 salt routes. And if we have long duration storms, we're talking 18, 24-hour shift, and that's a long time to be behind a wheel. Yeah, and that happens on these big storms. I don't think people realize it. It's not, the guys aren't switching out. It's the same guy going past your house all day long. It's the same guy.
Yeah, there's a lot of factors too. I mean, the weather, there's different types of snow, as we all know, for being up here, and some of it's easy to get off the roads, and some of it is not easy to get off the roads, so that causes issues also. But I think the credit of the city administrator, as well as coordination between DPW, fire department, and police department, we've been able to identify where we're going to have those issues and try to prepare for them in advance, which has been helpful.
Just to give you guys an idea, before a storm, like I said, we all get together, transportation, police, fire, DPW, we put together a plan, anticipating what the storm's going to do based on information we have at the time. We sometimes will do a call at 5 in the morning to see who to bring in, what resources we need. We'll do another call, we'll be in constant contact with transportation to determine whether to close bus routes down or not. It's a lot of communication going on, with all of us.
I think the fire chief and I have been out on the road real early before anybody else is even in town and just see what the road conditions are and kind of try to give them an update as to where we're at. What we do is a lot of information sharing that goes along with large snow events. Any big weather event, really.
And we're not just coordinating with ourselves, we also talk to the town, we talk to the school district,
So there's a lot of combined efforts, a lot of coordination goes in that, because also we're, from OPT's standpoint on this is, we don't want to be in our way. Those big buses are out there, they're trying to move that snow, and we're just making a mess of it. If they get stuck, we got a bigger mess. The coordination is huge.
so when you guys get phone calls, 6 hours after a snowstorm started about someone complaining about, parking spots didn't get plowed, keep these things in mind.
Thank you.
I would also just add to that, what they're saying, as emergency manager, I'm reaching out to the county, and the county is typically lagging behind decisions that we've already made, and they usually piggyback off of what we do countywide, so.
Street lighting, we gave ourselves a 4 out of 5. The issue right now is we're transitioning to the maintenance contract. It's been very difficult. We had, at the end of the project, replacement of the lights, we had a punch list of over 100 items. And the contractor that was doing the install, they're contracted through NYPA, so we don't have a retainage on them, we don't have performance bond. They did a less than pleasing job of putting the lights in and addressing all of our issues that we had. Myself and my deputy, when they said they were done, we did 3 mornings from 3 o'clock in the morning to 6 in the morning, a full evaluation of all the city lights, and prepared this punch list. And many of the punch list items are still not addressed today. We did an evaluation back in March, April, March, somewhere in there. So if you have complaints about lights being out for long, have been out since, say, March or last year, it's because we're still having trouble with New York Power Authority and their consultants. We still stay on top of it and keep a record of all the light issues. We still have our list of punch list items. I'm continually coordinating with them on dimming lights for landowners that want lights dim because the lights are shining in their home and it's bright now. It wasn't bright before, the old style lights, and it's been a difficult transition, I would say, putting it lightly.
We'll get through it, and it'll be a different contractor, the maintenance contract. with our contract with NIPA. They're administering any repairs, so they should be automatically notified by the system when a light is malfunctioning. Else, we shouldn't have to drive around to work waiting for a phone call or a complaint. And the contractor has 30 days to see office.
I'm hopeful for that, eventually. We're definitely not there yet. I'm still getting phone calls from landowners on a monthly basis. This light's out, it's been out for 6 months, and all I can tell them is I've notified our contact at NIPA, they're coordinating with a consultant. Apparently their consultant was out last week, so I haven't got an update where the punch list is at. But it's been difficult, and I just want everyone to know that, and we are staying on top of it. We are recording all the complaints that come in for lights, and we are staying on top of NIPA.
Best guess, how much time before you think this will finally settle out?
I would hope this fall.
I would hope so, but I was optimistic. I'm less optimistic. So we'll see.
I was a little surprised by your comment about the fact you can dim some of the lights. I didn't think you had the ability to do that yet.
Yes,
You can turn them on and off. There are need for that. And
if it works.
if it works as intended. Yeah, that's not all fully.
I had done some lights for some landowners, and then I don't know what happened. The dim request I put in changed 2 weeks later and went back to full wattage, and I tried dimming it again. I can't dim it. I've contacted NIPA. They tried dimming it and won't dim it, so I got to figure out what's going on. But I had control at one point. Now I somehow lost control in the program we have. Work in progress. A lot more, it's requiring a lot more of my attention and my deputy's attention than we previously thought. So to address how to improve the level of service, increase staffing to hire electricians to do all maintenance in-house. Tonight we have. Any questions?
Move on to traffic.
Okay, traffic control. We have ourselves a level 3 out of 5. The issues we have are volume of signs. Some signs are faded, many signposts old and or crooked. Over half the traffic signal equipment is outdated. How to improve level of service? Increase staffing to hire electricians to do all maintenance in-house. More specific training for traffic signal maintenance. Remove unnecessary traffic signals. We are looking at removing some traffic signals. You will see a PSA soon about Walling, 3rd, and Rose Street on Main Street. We're looking to potentially remove those. We're going to put them in flash mode and see how it goes. And then pavement markings and improve signage. Any questions, comments?
For the amount of electric work we have that we've been paying on a yearly basis, would that pay for an electrician?
Greg?
You guys have those numbers?
I'm not sure. We have to look at that closer. I mean, so depending on how this NIPA maintenance contract works out with the street lights, that we're just not working, we could find people for us, then I think that would be what that cost would be, or else they can do. I can say for sure that it would be a lot, because obviously you hire a full-time employee, you don't need benefits and all of that. Those costs add up, but I'm not sure that one would be sufficient.
Well, if it's close to a rush, but it means the work is done and gets done quicker, that would be something to present to the council to think about.
Yeah.
And we have,
We listed down there as a maybe, but we haven't really dove into that.
right, we do have a bucket truck.
Right. You have the equipment necessary to get up and do those kind of repairs. So, it's a consideration.
Yeah.
It's a wish list. Any comments, further comments, questions?
Move off from traffic control to our next one.
Maybe an electrician.
Yeah. There's
I think
gotta
next
be-
part of transportation is our transit system. So I'll let Dave kind of talk about that. We broke down transit and paratransit as our two major areas, and then transit's kind of broken down by route. So I'll let Dave kind of go over those.
Okay, so the SUNY day route and the Center City route, we gave ourselves a 4. We struggle with cover of drivership, and that's not because of lack of funds, it's just lack of the driver pool. We just cannot recruit. And it's not just Oneonta, it's a nationwide, as Katie can attest to. We just cannot attract drivers. We've tried many, many different ways to attract drivers, and it just doesn't seem to be helping. And it's not just, like I said, just not Oneonta. It's not OPT, it's area-wide.
Can I ask a silly question?
Sure.
Do they have to have the licensing that's required to operate a bus prior to applying, or is that something that they can be trained for?
That's a great question. A year ago, we did a lot of training. The federal government has now mandated let me get this right, ELDT, which is Entry-Level Driver Training Program. And there's many, many steps that you have to do and report to this ELDT. All those have to be done by a certified trainer. The hours that is required is a lot. I couldn't even tell you, it's hundreds, really, to be honest with you. There is some programs out there that we've looked into. Katie has dug into. BOCES has a program where they're offering it for a fee. So we have looked at, partnering with somebody to help bring those people in. But to be honest with you, there's not those people, young people are not out there looking to drive.
Sure.
So, but we have looked into it in depth.
We also, pre-pandemic, we partnered with Job Corps to try to do a bus driver training program, which we thought was a great idea.
Great.
Yeah, it didn't really work, and now it would be almost impossible given the ELDT requirements, but it was something that we worked really hard on. We had a lot of interest from the Job Corps students, and we weren't able to make it work, so.
And we had like 3 signed up, and then the pandemic hit, and that stopped it.
I'm sorry, but is that something post-pandemic now, let's say it was post-pandemic, that could be re-pursued with the Job Corps? Is there numbers start to come back up?
It could theoretically, but I don't know about Job Corps' ability to provide or to have a compliant ELDT training program, and that's not me questioning the Job Corps curriculum, just I literally do not know enough about their ability to provide it based on the FMCSA regulations. So as Dave said before, a year ago, prior to February of this year, it was very easy, provided we had the time, to hire people who didn't have a CDL, get them their permit, work with them, do behind-the-wheel training on the road, and basically create bus drivers. We no longer have the ability to do that due to candidates needing to have this training before they can be hired. And it's pretty expensive. I mean, we're talking a few $1,000s.
Yikes.
So we took a national driving shortage and further complicated it with this program. Although, understandably, it's an important program because it's all geared towards safety and being sure that drivers on the road really know what they're doing. But again, it really, the chief is reminding me that he does have a CDL, and I've attempted to recruit him to drive buses, especially the Sunday night run.
This weekend.
Oh my gosh, how 2 words, man.
So that's what I've been saying for 6
So we could have the chief drive in uniform.
Well, we could be a little boss. Yeah, we're going to put a flower. And a sweeper.
And a street sweeper.
We can maybe on the side of the advertisement.
Firefighters, yeah. A banner on the side for firefighting.
So, how to improve the level of service? We need more drivers. Improve the bus shelters and add some bus shelters would be nice. SUNY night, we gave ourselves a 4, and the same thing, we just struggle to cover. The night is a different animal, as everyone knows. We do give a shift differential for night drivers, which still, it's a struggle. It's a struggle to have drivers at night. And that is, again, to improve the level of service, we need more staffing in the shelters. Hillside, again, we give ourselves a 4. We gave ourselves a 4 on all these because we think we're doing a really good job with what we have. My staff is awesome about stepping up, and we ran into a problem today, and our driver was ill just before the run. This one did an extra run. This one stayed and covered the rest of the run. So I do have amazing people that will step up when not even asked to step up. So I'm very fortunate there. Again, we would like to increase the service frequency on that run. Again, at night, that bus does a loop through campus and then downtown. We'd just like to make it more often. Hardwick, that's a contractual run as well as the SUNY. Again, we struggle, and we'd like to increase the service frequency on that. Cooperstown, East End, we gave ourselves a 3, and the reason we gave ourselves a 3 is because the covering of the shifts again with the drivers, and we combined the routes, if you remember, back in the spring, because we had such a driver shortage. We feel that we could offer a better service if we could expand that route back out, put East End on River, expand. South side, again, we struggle. We'd like to increase the staffing level, increase the service frequency, and improve bus shelters. And I'd like to add a little bit to that. With what's going on the south side, eventually be able to expand that route more, cover more areas along south side. We're kind of limited now because of timing. We're basically at the end of what we can actually do in that half-hour loop. So it'd be nice if we could ever expand that, possibly have 2 buses run that route, or opposing buses every 15 minutes. West End, again, we gave ourselves a 3 because that's another route that we condensed, and we'd like to increase the frequency and add more shelters out there as well. Paratransit, we give ourselves a 5 because I think we do an amazing job with our paratransit service. Recently, our paratransit service has increased double. We're running, right now we're running from 6:40 in the morning, 6:45 until 5:30 at night, just nonstop paratransit service. We do struggle to cover that, but I have a pool of about 3 drivers that cover those shifts every day, and they do an amazing job. So. Any questions or comments?
I would just like to say that Dave's done a phenomenal job with managing OPT, and the communication has been excellent between OPT and the police department. It has a direct impact on downtown. When the bars clear out at 2 o'clock in the morning, if they're on buses, they become neighborhood problems because people have to walk home. So having shortages of buses, and Dave himself has stepped up on multiple occasions to see that those routes get covered, but we'll even put additional buses out on specific nights if we're going to have expectations of larger crowds of people. But the number of people on the buses going back up to campus for us is something that's very important to see. Lots of students come down from campus and utilize the buses coming down. It really provides us a litmus test for how busy a night's going to be, just based on how many people he's moving. So that communication back and forth with OPT has been critical, and having those buses staffed is very important for us, as well as the tranquility, so to speak, of the neighborhoods, because if you have hundreds of kids walking back up to campus, it creates other fallout issues.
When's the last run on the weekends typically?
We run till 3:45.
It's even later than I thought.
Yes. I will say I have two of my senior guys that are on at night will not leave if there's students. They make a special sweep through. They go down Market Street. They actually come up Main Street, which is not on their route, just to make sure there's nobody left behind.
It's a safety issue
Before they leave for the night.
You know, the last thing that we want to see are kids in a snowbank. And, the buses aren't running for whatever reason, that becomes a critical issue for us and it turns into an issue for the fire department.
One thing we had a special slide here that they suggested, I thought was a great idea, just to kind of illustrate the effect of ridership. I'll talk about that.
So, we just threw this kind of together to give you an idea of how ridership affects our number at the end. As Jenny can attest, a few riders makes a huge difference. If you have 100 new riders to the system and they use the system 3 times a week, this results in about 62,000 additional rides a year. It's like 70,000 in additional fares collected, and these are round numbers. So I didn't declare them in Jenny's. And then you take, for every one of those rides, we get 68 cents from Slow. So you take that money and, as you can see, the bottom line, just a few rides. And it works in reverse. As you can see, our numbers were down as the population was down on campus last semester. So I just kind of wanted to give you an idea of what, by increasing some of the programs that we do and get people to live downtown and to use our system, how much it can really increase and help us all.
Like Dave said, there is the key, one of the keys for us with our downtown is we're talking about housing and there's projects going on now to increase the density and have more people living here. When you live downtown and parking is more difficult, but there are services right to your eye, those types of residents are more likely to use the system. So as these places open up, we're trying to market that.
Definitely.
We can increase it.
Greg and I have run a couple ideas by each other. We're working on those.
Can I ask an additional question?
Absolutely.
For OPT? It's a follow-up. I know we had talked a little bit about advertising on the buses and how we just haven't been doing that as much here, but then I know we're going to talk about it, consider it, or just hoping for an update.
It has jumped about 50%. Actually, last week I think we installed 5 new advertisements. So we are increasing it.
Is that inside the buses?
Outside.
Outside? Cool.
Mostly inside, we do have some space for small. And SUNY and I usually use those spaces to put up flyers of events and stuff that are going on.
That's cool.
A little, 12 by 17 or something that fit. There's a place they fit right up in there that we can pop them in. They buy them and then they just snap up into the header.
Cool.
So
Okay.
they do utilize them quite a bit.
Cool. Thank you.
So next, that basically concludes our review of the services that we provide to the public directly. There's a lot of other functions that the city takes that support those services in various ways. So now we're going to just go through those. We won't take a real long time on this. But just to make sure everyone's aware of the various things that we're doing behind the scenes. Obviously, when you're aware, we have a city assessor. It's not a full-time position. I had that for about a decade. Used to be. We've contracted with the county to provide that. It's not a direct service, even though they directly interact with the public at times, but this is obviously, ultimately, as far as the city's concerned, this is how revenue is determined through tax assessment. Jenny, if you want to add anything?
No, you covered it, Greg.
Pretty obvious. I'll let you kind of take it away and be asset management.
Asset management, that will cover a number of areas. For example, we just talked with Chris on DPW services, but we have to keep track of all of our water and sewer infrastructure, our different valves, our pipes, all of our traffic lights and different things like that. And outside of all of the infrastructure asset management, we also have to keep track of all of the city's fixed assets. These get audited, they get reported on our financial statements, and it is a huge undertaking. Just history-wise, we used to have a part-time person that's all they did, was keep track of this information for us, but that position has been long eliminated. So, so between DPW and the finance staff, and also department heads, help us tremendously on keeping track of our major asset management. Benefit administration, I don't know if you want to speak on that, Katie, or?
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
Like I said, we offer a very rich benefit plan, health, dental, vision insurance. We offer New York State Retirement System membership, deferred compensation, and of course, workers' compensation administration. So that requires a lot of knowledge of contracts, rules and regulations, federal rules like the Affordable Care Act, and also a general understanding of our employee population and what's going on, who's getting married, who's having a baby, who's aging off of our plan to Medicare. So there's a lot of nuanced and sophisticated planning that goes into that.
And this gets coordinated between personnel and finance, but also from the presentation that we had from Haley and Kuhn. They also assist in the benefit management for the employees. Budgeting itself, you're very familiar with the budget process, takes up a lot of tremendous time, not only in the fall, but all year long. And it was a difficult process, obviously, because we just don't have the funding resources that we would like to have to be able to provide everything that we would like to provide. So it's a very difficult decision-making process. The building maintenance, that is right under Chris's crew. He has all of the different buildings throughout the city have to be maintained, not only for condition, but we have all of the costs of actually just having the buildings exist. Cash management, all the cash flow. Does not matter what department it is, all the cash comes through the finance office. It is collected at different areas throughout the city, police department, personnel, water department, things like that. But cash management, not only for all of our collection, but also for all of our disbursements, which is a little bit further down the list. And civil service administration.
Sure, so primarily me as the secretary to the Civil Service Commission. We administer civil service not only for all of the city departments, but the Oneonta City School District, the Housing Authority, and Huntington Memorial Library. So that's a generally not very well-known fact that we have our responsibilities extend outside of the city departments. When we think about civil service administration, there's a lot of interplay between and amongst civil service law, rules, regulations, and companion regulations like military law, federal codes, rules, regulations, things like that. Typically, when we think about civil service, you think about the examination process and merit system administration pursuant to the state constitution, which is really important. But there's a lot more to it than that, and I listed some of those things, like understanding classification and compensation and how to do so properly within the appropriate context. Examinations, holding exams. My staff, we work Monday through Friday, and then oftentimes on Saturday we're here giving civil service tests as well. Reassignments and transfers, resignations, layoffs, preferred eligible lists, disciplinary proceedings, leaves for disability, veterans' rights, political activities, strikes, ethics law, outside activities, and of course, the Taylor Law, which is a section of civil service law. So there's really a lot that goes into civil service administration.
And thank you for that, Katie. I just want to back up to cash management. I also want you to know that all city cash balances, no matter where they are, have to be collateralized to make sure that if there is some type of default, the city's money is protected. Not only through all of our different bank accounts, but we're also invested in the New York Class municipal portfolio, which the interest rates are starting to go back up on that. And for cash management, there is a lot of reporting to different agencies as far as where the cash is and how we're handling it. Communications, that would be shared communications between our phone systems, our computer systems, our website. Our Pyramid, as you know, is our computer support IT people. So there is a lot of things that make obviously various communications between all the different cities and departments and then out to the community. Website services, I'm not sure if I mentioned that. That's another crucial system, which we have the radio systems, the 911 systems. The radio systems, just so you know, that is on our capital plan for upgrades. And That's especially for the police and fire. We have our camera systems, we have our security systems. All of that is in our communications for all of the different departments. Debt service, you're familiar with debt service, our bonding process, all of the criteria that we have to do for bond counsel. Every year, our bond counsel has to update the city's financials, conditions, and submit a report to make sure that our rating stays with S&P properly. And that is just another criteria that we have to meet as a municipality. Disbursements themselves, there's a lot of cash disbursements. It's payroll, it's accounts payable, it's all of the taxes that we have to do for employees, withholdings, all of their deductions. When you approve the warrants, all of our health insurance bills, there's just many disbursements that we handle every day at our city. And Jed, I'm leaving anything else that you want me to mention, please holler. Another thing that we have to keep track of is all of the, with disbursements, is all of the withholdings from employees' paychecks. We have to make sure that they get to all the agencies that they need to be at. Just to give you a few examples of, so all the cash coming in and going out of the city flows through a lot of our departments, but ends up in the finance office and onto our financial statements. Employee relations?
Sure, so for employee relations, I mean, the city's best resource truly is its employees. I really can't say enough good about the dedication and hard work and subject matter expertise of our staff. The things I am constantly amazed here at what the staff does with the resources that are available. Bus drivers not leaving anybody behind, even if it means sticking around. The great work that goes on in public safety and public works and across the city, it's amazing. So I've always taken the approach that happy employees are good employees, which directly has a commensurate effect on the services that those employees are providing to the community. So anything that affects having positive working relationships with employees and morale and, general workplace concepts like culture, consistency, accountability, really lead to employee satisfaction and retention, and therefore have an effect on the ability of the services that we're able to provide.
Engineering includes design of various infrastructure facilities, including roads, curbs, sidewalks, storm sewer, sanitary sewer, water systems, water treatment system, the water treatment plant, wastewater treatment plant, our various reservoirs. It's not only portions that we design ourselves, but also oversight of consultants that we hire to design facilities. Also oversight of construction, bidding and construction, oversight of contractors that are construction of those facilities.
Equipment maintenance, obviously, a lot of equipment supporting various departments. Most departments have some sort of equipment, whether that's a vehicle or an excavator or a generator or a Genfair machine, which maybe Dave can tell you about. Piece of equipment is like a big headache at times for OPT that you wouldn't even think about. But
So the cash boxes that collect the fares, I just priced them out, they're $18,000 a piece. And we have one on every single bus. It's $10,000 to have somebody trained to repair that. We do all the repair on them ourselves. There's a lot of moving pieces. It's a vending machine in a box this big. So it's a lot of moving pieces. The computer stores all our data, all our rides, everything. It's a quite complicated piece of equipment, but we have the staff that repairs them and maintains them.
a little thing like that, it's like your car, you're taking it, but it's a big part of the operation, and there are many examples like that throughout the various departments that I'm sure the police and fire can tell you all about that as well. We're going to schedule our next meeting, will be focused on equipment and facilities planning. That's going to be part of what we do. There's always discussions about which piece of equipment we need to purchase and plan. So I think that warrants a separate discussion. Obviously, the central garage, all of our equipment, as the name implies, they're right in the center of everything. Judy's not going to insurance claims, not so much health insurance, but insurance claims against the city or claims the city makes after damage to equipment facilities. A lot of time, will often lead to lawsuits, protecting against lawsuits, those sort of things. It's a big focus. There's conversations about that every week. Fashion or another, right?
I would just like to expand on this for just a moment. Also with insurance, every year, Greg and I need to meet with our insurance brokers, and we need to go over a survey of everything that the city provides, everything that I use get attached. It's an annual process. We also have to talk with the fire chief and the police chief and different inspections. We just had a risk management done. So all of this is also, you'll see for the insurance in the budget, all of that. Also, I just wanted to publicly thank Katie. She assisted my office when staff was left, and she took over the insurance claims to assist me. And it was really a very great benefit for my office at the time, and she did an excellent job. So I just want to publicly thank you for that. We now have new staff, which Katie has been training, which I think she will also do an excellent job. But just know that not only do all of these people do extra and beyond, Katie has also done that just to help me. She did it just to help my office. So I greatly appreciate it. So as far as the insurance claims, there's many areas. Fire department has its own, its own special coverage, so does the police officers. And so I just want you to understand that there's a lot of work that goes into actual insurance policy. Labor relations?
So having good labor relations is similar to having good employee relations. When things are going well with your labor unions, that has a direct impact on morale and employee productivity and therefore the services that people can provide. So as you're aware, the city has 4 labor unions, PBA and sergeants in the police department, IAFF in the fire department, CSEA, which is a lot of our DPW folks, our civilian dispatchers, our clerical folks, and a lot of other support staff. In addition, we have, can't really include them in labor relations, but our unrepresented administrators, but I don't like to forget about them. So, that is all about building relationships and being a good listener and being somebody that labor unions can trust and rely upon, being a good mediator and a good neutral party. But talk about a place where we can have problems and end up in court, that would be with our labor unions, and those can be expensive and have damaging impacts on morale and staff relationships. So we place a heavy focus on labor relations and working and having a good collaborative partnership, bringing the unions in, decision-making processes and involving people, and it's been a good experience.
Legal compliance, we have a lot of different legal compliances that we have to meet. It doesn't matter if it's with the city attorney services, with labor relations services, with grants, I want to mention purchasing in here because the purchasing department has to make sure that all purchase orders that are processed meet the legal compliance as far as competitive bidding, the different thresholds. It takes a lot of work, bids, documents, RFQs, there's a lot of regulations that have to be followed to make the actual compliance requirements. And also, I believe I mentioned the city attorney, and I know I'm forgetting one, I'm sorry. Is there something that you think I need to add there?
No.
Okay.
The amount of regulatory agencies that the city has are unbelievable. When I looked at my office alone, I just stopped making a list when I got to 20 different legal and regulatory agencies, so.
Yeah, so it's just, the legal compliance takes a lot of time, a lot of internal controls. That is one thing that we do test. One thing that's not on this list that I would like to add, and I'll just kind of squeeze it in here, is audit. And the audit takes a tremendous amount of time and compliance regulations, looking at if we've met everything, if things are immaterial as far as the financial statements. I told Greg that when I hand him a financial statement, I know it's not perfect, but I know that it's very strong. And that's what we need, is we need a strong financial statement foundation to be able to move forward with. So the audit is also a a big project that people don't usually see on day to day. Payroll, we kind of touched on that, how personnel and finance works together. We know that we're right now involved in a major upgrade into the system, which has taken tremendous amount of time and effort, but we're hoping that the end product still is going to take some time to get to the end product, but we're hoping that it's really going to improve for every department in the city. And payroll has a lot of different components to it. It's not only just wages, but it's also benefits and tax compliances and the different deductions that may be mandated for one reason or another.
Planning, and there are various plans, obviously, the city creates and uses in various ways. And usually they're, across departments, so many department heads involved. You're talking about a pavement maintenance plan or a local waterfront revitalization plan or a parks master plan. The city against the plan update is done every 10 years. There's a number of those efforts that are ongoing at any given time. And something that we spend our collective time on. Record keeping, obviously, the city has standards to keep records. The clerk's office is very involved in that. I'm a part-time employee who spends the vast majority of her time working on digitizing records and organizing records and searching them.
Retention, disposition.
Here to tell you all about the different regulations.
That was the 400-page document that I'm sure everybody read during the pandemic that we brought forward to have approved for implementation. We have thousands of cubic feet of records, both here and at an off-site location, that our office is responsible for the inventory of the retention and the appropriate disposition.
Recruitment, so I think in a lot of things we're hearing a common theme of staffing is a challenge, right? So even when the council's able to allocate the funding and the resources that we need to have positions, we still are not necessarily always able to fill them. Right now we're recruiting for an HR director and 2 people on DPW and a person on buildings and grounds and 6 or 7 bus drivers and police officers and firefighters and 2 librarians we're looking for. So there's a lot going on that we have to look at people, at all levels of the organization, and that takes time and resources and effort and creative problem solving, and also trying to make candidates' application experience with us a very good one. So, of course, we can't provide services if we don't have people here to do the jobs. So, you all authorized recently a compensation analysis, which we're going to be looking at, which will hopefully help us to kind of quantify any areas where we might have problems in remaining competitive in terms of pay and other benefits. But recruitment is definitely a challenge.
Here we kind of talked about regulatory compliance. Every aspect of the city has some number of regulations that they can comply with. There's the wastewater plant, police department, fire department, you name it, there's many regulations that they're complying with. Retirement benefit we provide.
Yeah, as you know, we offer the retirement plan from the New York State retirement system. We have the ERS for the non-uniform employees, and we have the police and fire program for the uniformed employees. This takes requires reporting every month, and we have to make sure that we are in compliance with the rules and regulations of what we report, not only based on days worked, but also earnings that are considered pensionable. Revenue collections. We have, as I said, revenues can be collected in different departments throughout the city. But because of internal audit controls, they are required to meet different internal control mechanisms that we have set up. For example, Dave will sell passes, or his department will sell passes to the customers. We have to make sure that every pass number is accounted for. We have to make sure that everything balances, that what goes into the vending machines is actually what is being reported when we go to the bank. We have to make sure that all of the coin that is in the vending machine balances to all of the different cash transactions. I'm just giving you a little bit of detail to let you know that we have to make sure that all of our internal controls are proven through audit. When the water department collects water fees, when personnel collects civil service fees, they give us a report when they bring the monies to the office. We have to make sure that they all balance. We don't usually allow cash collection off-site. We do that for protection of the employees and also the customer. And we are setting up different departments. OPT now has charge cards, police department has charge cards. We're going to get charge card options up at the water plant so they can take them for the water testing fees. Also, the revenue collections are also through direct deposits. We think direct deposits are an easy way of collecting money. It just causes different kind of work. We still have to reconcile every direct deposit that comes into our bank account and figure out where to apply it to. Online payments, we do have certain ways to have them loaded into the system and automatically posted. But for example, all grant payments, all grant compliance, I wanted to mention under the regulatory compliance, every grant that Judy handles, at the end of that closeout of the grant, it gets audited. So we work very closely with Judy's department to make sure that we are prepared for the audit when it comes in. We have, and also when money comes in for a grant, we have to make sure it leaves our bank account within 5 days. So it's just all these little things that you're not aware of that the staff has to make sure that we meet these regulations. So revenue collections is obviously a big item. We've talked about quarterly water and sewer billings, and I've mentioned to the council before that we can do that. That means instead of collecting about 4,000 water bills on an annual basis for email customers, that means we're going to be collecting 16,000 of them because we're going to be doing it 4 times a year. And that is going to have a lot more expensive as getting the bills out to the customers and the time for collecting all of those payments coming back in. So I understand it's better for the customer, but also I just want you to be aware of how much more work that's going to be put on the finance department.
Can you just ask a quick question about that? Because that's not something, I don't want to say it's not something that I considered, but maybe not in this way before. So if going to quarterly billing, well, yeah, I have a lot of questions. I'm sorry. If going to quarterly billing is going to, I mean, 16,000 is a lot. And it's going to create more work. I mean, theoretically, would you need more people in order to do that work? Well, do you feel like you're staffed adequately?
Well, that's a very good question, and Greg and I will discuss our different ideas when we get to that point of bringing it to the council.
Okay.
We're going to see if we can incorporate electronic billing for people who will give us their email address, and we get the system where it will produce an electronic billing for the people.
Okay.
And we're going to try to find different avenues to make it a more efficient system.
Cool. That was my follow-up question, was about, is there some sort of online?
We're just not there yet.
Okay. So my other question, I'm sorry about that, is I know that the water fund is very strong, but if a position were created in order to process the water bills, is that something that could theoretically be funded through the water fund because it's directly related?
Not well. Could we? Possibly. Would I suggest it? No.
Okay.
But I can explain it to you when we get into it.
Yeah, just curious. Thank you.
You're welcome. Timekeeping, is that for, is it one for payroll?
Obviously, timekeeping, so you can track your time, or like pay employees, and report back to the retirement system. And we purchased a software, or in the process of implementing that, UKG, just timekeeping and payroll. Has a lot of benefits that we're scratching the surface of. There's been, you guys can talk about it, there have been some complications in implementing that. It's been a bit of a struggle, but we're hopeful that we'll get there, and ultimately that will save a lot of time for various departments who previously or currently recently had been spending, employees spending 1 to 3 days per payroll cycle on those things.
Yes, we're already seeing improvement in the UKG system as far as employees daily time. As we said, we still need to get different things in the system massaged and improved, but it's really showing, even this case that was better than last week's cycle. So we're making progress.
Okay, so unless there's other questions, general governance report, that's it. We just wanted to kind of give you a general overview of what those things are, and sometimes, you know, define things. We didn't assign ratings 1 through 5 to those, I think for obvious reasons. So, next steps, what I'd like to do, and I haven't put this together yet, but I will in the next few days, and into this week or early next week, I'd like to send out some kind of a survey to council members that will basically summarize everything we've gone through, all the services we've discussed, the ratings that we've assigned 1 through 5, and then ask each of you individually just to go through that sometime before our next budget meeting, and indicate whether you agree or whether you feel we should maintain our current level of service that we're providing now, or you feel that that particular area is somewhere we want to improve the service we're providing some way, doesn't matter how, but that's something area that you think we should improve in, or if you think there's an area that we're providing too much of a focus on, maybe we should have less focus on. That would be keeping it simple, maintain, increase or decrease. I'll take that and compile that, bring it back to the council for discussion. I think to go through that in a meeting will be difficult, but if we individually have to respond first, and then we can talk about any differences or any particular areas. And then after that, we can bring that back to the department so they can complete their departmental requests, based on the feedback we get. Does that make sense? Or
Yeah.
decent idea? So I'll work on putting that out as soon as we can. We'll need to schedule another budget meeting. Looking at Tuesday, September 13th at 5 o'clock again, if possible. This would be focused on equipment, facilities planning, something that I think we should have a discussion about as a big piece of what we do, like I said before. And also at that meeting, we would review the results of the survey, kind of basically wrap up our level of service discussion. After that, our departments would have their budget requests due on September 16th. And move ahead from there, draft budget.
Yeah, that's good for me. 13th at 5.
Well, as I showed today, I will certainly try to get 5, but things sometimes come up, so don't worry about me.
That was Thursday, the
Tuesday.
oh, Tuesday, the 13th. Oh, okay, yeah, that was.
And there's a 7 o'clock meeting that takes this chamber, so it'll be over by 7.
So that's set, Tuesday 13th, 5 o'clock?
That was all we had. Is there questions? Anything else?
Comments? Process? Everybody feel like there's been a good process?
Yeah.
Informative?
Yes.
Yeah, very good.
I'm very appreciative of the work that you
Yeah,
guys
thank
have
you.
been doing. I think it's positioned us well as we move into the budget discussions and your prioritization of your own department requests. So thank you for your effort, and thank you very much to all the department heads. We do actually have a quorum now, so if there's any additional business or if there's anything that needs to be discussed in council, this would be an opportunity. No? In that case, and I presume we have no expectation of a need of executive session? No? So with that,